Not all revenge stories are loud or dramatic. Some are quiet, subtle, and cut deeper than any shouting match. This one took more than 20 years to unfold. It's about two sisters who grew up under a harsh, manipulative mother, and how, when the time finally came, they expressed their feelings not with anger, but with a single, unforgettable line carved into stone. The family I'm talking about lived in a small Midwestern town where everyone knew everyone. The father, let's call him David, was a gentle soul, patient, funny, the kind of man who would stop to help a stranger on the side of the road. Friends still remember him as the neighbor who brought soup when someone was sick or fixed a leaky faucet without expecting anything in return. The mother, Eleanor, was very different. She had a sharp tongue and a habit of playing favorites between the children. The boys in the family often got a pass, while the girls bore the brunt of her criticism. Eleanor questioned their choices, their looks, even their worth. Over time, the two daughters, Anna and Grace, carried those wounds into adulthood. One became withdrawn. The other tried desperately to be perfect, always chasing approval that never came. For years, David's warmth was a buffer. Family dinners were manageable, sometimes even pleasant, because he would quietly deflect Eleanor's barbs or give the girls a look that said, "I see you. You're not alone." Then tragedy struck. David died suddenly, leaving Eleanor a widow and the children adrift. They were grown by then, but losing their father was like losing the only person who truly understood them. Eleanor lived almost 2 decades longer. Without him there, her bitterness hardened. Anna and Grace remained civil but distant, mostly out of duty to their father's memory. When David passed, the siblings commissioned a beautiful headstone. It captured exactly who he had been. Here rests David Carter, loving husband, devoted father, kind brother, constant friend. It was their way of saying, "This is who you were to us. This is how we'll remember you." Eleanor's name had already been etched at the bottom of the double plot as a placeholder, but there was still space for an inscription, space Anna and Grace would someday control. Fast forward nearly 20 years. Eleanor passed away quietly, without any reconciliation. There was no deathbed apology, no last-minute softening. The sisters mourned, but it was a different kind of grief, more about what could have been than what was. And then came a decision they hadn't expected to weigh so heavily, what to write on the gravestone. They could have used the standard line, "beloved wife and mother," and no one would have thought twice, but that felt dishonest. Their father's inscription was filled with loving adjectives that matched his life. Pretending their mother was the same would erase decades of truth. So, together, they chose something different. They left David's glowing tribute untouched. Underneath, they added a simple, stark line for Eleanor. No flowery words, no descriptors, no softening, just, "and also Eleanor Carter." It was quiet but devastatingly clear. Anyone visiting the grave would see the contrast. A husband celebrated for his kindness, a wife merely acknowledged. It wasn't vandalism. It wasn't cruelty. It was honesty delivered with restraint. Anna and Grace never bragged about what they'd done. In fact, most people wouldn't even notice unless they stopped to read the stone carefully. But for those who knew the family story, it said everything that needed to be said. This wasn't petty revenge. It was a kind of closure. By writing only a few words, the sisters gave themselves a voice their mother had long denied them. Sometimes revenge isn't a grand public act. Sometimes it's as subtle as an inscription on a headstone, a final line in a long, painful chapter. In this family's case, it was their way of saying, "We survived you. We remember Dad with love, and we will not pretend anymore."